What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 292 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex VK. Early warning, I don't have any camera issues this week. Glad to be back. But I do have personal man flu issues this week. I've been stricken with man flu. I think it is terminal. So if I do cark it halfway through the show, Alex, please call the relevant authorities. How are you going this week, man?
It's a whole new week for me, whole new world for me, because I've ended my lease on my commercial shed, so I'm spending most of the time on the road, and I had a great constructive week, bought more cars than what I usually do, which is nice. I've been going to the gym. I've gone hard this week. I feel like a freaking unit today, which is good. This heat, it was like I felt like I was being baked good in the gym this morning.
It's so humid, hey?
It was disgusting. So I've got my I've been topping up my electrolytes. I don't know if we've had this conversation about electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously in this heat, electrolytes are important.
Correct.
But most people don't really do them, do they?
No, because, again, most people have been psyoped to thinking that salt is bad for them for their entire lives.
So I can tell you, I am 20% more capable on electrolytes than without.
Yeah, because you're hydrated.
Yeah, man. Your brain, your body, your energy, it's crazy.
It's got what plants want. It's Brondo.
Brondo. It's got what plants want. So, no, I've had a very good week. I haven't thought a lot about the weekend, which is a mistake I keep making. But I had a very hectic weekend last weekend trying to move out of the shed, so maybe this might be a bit of a reset one for me.
Yeah, just to relax.
Yeah. But there's heaps going on in the news.
Yeah, as usual. I also wanted to start off by saying that, well, two things. Number one, I don't know if it's just because of the sickness, but I have absolutely woken up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. So if a slightly aggressive tinge comes out during the show, you've been forewarned. Number two, before we get into the things that are happening in the news at the moment, I just want to remind people, when it comes to consuming news, and obviously we're going to talk about the US-Iran war today, there's a lot going on there, but the number one war that's going on right now is the war to control your psyche.
Totally.
And that's what everyone needs to remember. You can go to sources that support any cause on any side of any of these issues, and they will all have propaganda ready and waiting to confirm your biases.
We proved it last week. We spent 40 minutes on a 7-panel Instagram slide, and it was funny because I spoke to someone during the week about it, and I said,
we had a lot of feedback about that, actually.
Oh, I want to hear that. I do. I would like to hear that, but someone, I was describing what was on the panels, and one of the guys goes, "Is that cheek media?" I'm like, dude, how did you know? He goes, "Oh, dude, they show me that stuff all the time, and it's psycho."
Here's the other latest thing too that I've noticed a lot of, and I don't let me know if you've seen them as well. I've noticed on Facebook in particular, there is just every single day I log into Facebook, and there is some sort of news article, well, pseudo news article. It's written like it's a news article, specifically talking about interactions between a leftist cultural figure and a right-wing cultural figure, and it being so dramatic and like a big thing happened. And they're clearly written by AI, and they're all fake. Like, literally all of them are fake. Like, the most recent one that I saw...
Facebook's for boomers. So Facebook uses AI videos to show fishing trawlers helping deliver baby whales on deck.
Totally. And look, the most recent and egregious one that I saw was one yesterday where there was an apparent conversation between... what's the Muslim senator's name from Australia? Is it Fatima Payman? Senator Payman?
Yeah.
So it's trying to make it out like there was some television program that had Senator Payman going up against Nick Shirley from the United States.
Oh, right.
So just a reminder who Nick Shirley is. Nick Shirley is the young man, the YouTuber who exposed all of the Somalian fraud happening in Minnesota. And it was just having quotes back and forth where they were apparently arguing in this like live cross show. It's completely fake. So again, this is all a war to control your psyche. And these stories, and again, the thing I find most interesting about these stories, number one, they're absolutely fake. But number two, you jump into the comments. And there's people arguing on both sides of the comments. But also, you got to remember, dead internet theory. How many of those people arguing for and against the different sides in those comments are bots designed to make it look like A, it's real, and B, pushing certain agendas within the comment sections themselves?
Well, it's funny. We've spoken about it on this show where it seems like people are more than willing to grab written quotes with a watermark background of the person that allegedly said the thing, and take that as gospel, as opposed to the other side, which has the video of the speech that happened in context.
I mean, look, that's what Pauline Hanson just got censured for again in Parliament this week, because of her comments that were taken out of context by politicians trying to censure her in Parliament to shut her down.
Yeah, it's all a joke, and we'll come to that in my little segment. What was the feedback that you got about last episode?
We had a fair bit. We had quite a few people message in. Ironically, a lot of them were women. And
what?
No, but good feedback, to the point where they were like, a lot of them were said that they were embarrassed for their gender, which is nice. I mean, it's nice to see, and I'll make a comment about that in a sec too. The other side were not the other side. Sorry, some of the other comments were basically saying, if I ever send you something like that or post something like that, and you guys spend 45 minutes railing on it on the show, I'm going to block and delete you and never talk to you again.
That's a great call. I like
that. Yeah. I really enjoyed that one. But I've got to say, and this is something that came up I saw a clip of Sam Tripoli, so the tinfoil prophet that we spoke about the other week. He was doing a podcast on someone else's show, and one of the things he brought up, it's very true and very relevant, which is, in the last probably 2 to 3 decades, probably closer to 2 in Australia, but 3 in America, there are 4 particular groups of people that have essentially been protected from criticism in the Western world. And those 4 groups are black people, women, LGBTQIA plus people, and who was the other one? Jews. Sorry, should have remembered that one.
Yeah.
So those are the 4, right? Women, Jews, LGBTQA plus, and black people. And the problem is, and what Sam was explaining, and this is so true, again, as a parent, you see this all the time. If you remove the ability to criticize people, they become the worst versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we always talk about it from the terms of constructive criticism, right? And if you actually believed that constructive criticism was a positive thing, you would be like, look at what we've seen in media through like the demonization of, say, straight white men for the last 5 years, for example, right? Straight white men are apparently the cause of all the world's ills. In Victoria in 2023, they created the Minister for Men's Behavioural Change, because it appears that, yes, there are some straight white men who have done some bad things throughout history, and it will continue to happen throughout the future. But it would appear that they think it is relevant to criticize straight white men for the things they're doing wrong, in the hope that other straight white men don't do those things wrong, or step in when they see those things being done wrong and correct the behavior. The reality is, if you think that works, you must apply that to everyone evenly. But we have seen these 4 particular groups essentially get given carte blanche to do whatever they like. And you look at things like...
I can give an example like that I had in my own life. And I've mentioned on the show a few times, is about the flags on my uni down here, right? And I mentioned that in front of a group of people. And look, I willingly antagonized these people because I knew that it would light them up.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that to prove the point. And someone else actually pitched in and sort of was the voice of reason in it. They're like, well, what have you got against trans people? And I was like, sorry, for people that don't know, the uni down here has all these flags on the roof. It's a spectacular building, beautiful sandstone building. And it's got the Australian flag, the Queensland flag, the Torres Strait Island flag, the university flag, and the trans flag.
Yeah. For New Transistan, the country.
Yeah, and I was like, which one of these flags is not like the others? And their instant response when I've said that is that I've got something against trans people. And another guy piped in and actually said, there's other ways to express support, but that is wrong. Like, it's out of context.
Like, they're a Brisbane-based university. Why don't they have a Brisbane Broncos flag flying or a Brisbane Lions flag flying, right?
Well, those are even closer to reality than what having a sexual ideology when all the others are places, right? So from a purely logical standpoint, it is strange and out of place to put that there. But it's almost, to me, it feels like it's designed as a wedge to do exactly what it did when I brought it up.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Just to light people up and have them have those illicit feelings about me as a bad person for even bringing it up.
I'm glad you used the term wedge issue, because it is. And again, there's an interesting parallel that happened at the same time literally this week. So we've just had a visit from current Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney.
I was just watching it.
Okay. Did you notice anything interesting about when he was standing up at the podium making his speech?
I didn't get to the speech. I was doing the prelims.
Okay, so he was making a speech. There were only Australian flags behind him.
Ooh.
So think about how controversial it's been recently with people saying about how we only have one Australian flag. Why are we having all of these press conferences with politicians like Albo, for example, where he's standing in front of the Australian, the Aboriginal, and the Torres Strait Islander flag all at the same time? Like, he's the Australian Prime Minister. He's not the Prime Minister of the Torres Strait or just Indigenous people. He's the Australian Prime Minister. We've only got one flag. So don't you find it interesting that when you have a foreign leader over here making speeches, which will be recorded and broadcast out to the rest of the world, they didn't have the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flag.
Very well spotted.
Right? So that's how you know there is, like, they know it means something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't chop and change it.
I have to give props. I was actually very impressed with Albo's speech. I thought it was funny.
Okay.
I thought it was welcoming. Did you hear it?
No.
He struggled
to listen to him speak for too long.
Between Canada and Australia, and he talked about how it was actually a Canadian that put up the first flag of the Southern Cross, which was for miners' rights. Okay. And he goes, so basically it says, we welcome Canadian rebels here in Australia.
Just not homegrown rebels.
Yeah. But it was actually a charming speech. Okay. It was a nice speech. Now, I've said it on this show. I don't like Mike Carney. We've shown on this show that he had his fingers in every financial collapse that this world has had in the last 20, 30 years. He was there the years that it happened. He's a bad guy. And like we said 2 episodes ago, we haven't heard anything out of Canada lately. Canada's gone radio silent.
It's been very hush-hush, yeah.
Yeah. So, and what I found interesting in the speech, before ABC was talking about what's going to happen for the rest of the day, and apparently Carney had just been to India and did all these business deals, and they asked, so are they going to do some business deals here in Australia? And even the reporter of ABC, who is obviously a spokesperson for the government, was like, oh yeah, they're not going to be as significant as the Indian ones. There's a deal for resources. That's all we've got.
Mm-hmm.
For vaccines.
Yeah.
And a deal for our superannuation, which is a massive problem in itself that we might cover later, like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But not as significant as the multi-faceted deals that India's done, which goes into what we said last week about how Australia's dropped 100 places in economic complexity. We've got nothing to offer, dude. Outside dirt and banking and our super, we got nothing.
Well, it's pretty interesting that you mentioned that, because Canada's in the same boat. Canada is drastically falling down as far as economic complexity goes as well. And what is interesting, I can't remember the guy's name. Do you know the Asian professor who runs that channel, Predictive History?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Constantly talks about Game 3. Really interesting guy. Great follow for anyone who's interested in actually understanding how the world works and getting a bit more insight into the underpinnings of all of these conflicts. He spoke about Mark Carney literally as soon as he was elected. And the reality is, Mark Carney.
Canada's 43rd in the economic complexity. We're 169th.
Okay, so look, we are miles behind where they are, but on a population basis, on the fact that like they've got many natural resources as well that they should be using.
They've got automobiles, machinery, which we don't do, ICT equipment, pharmaceuticals, plastics. We don't do any of that.
Where's the USA at the moment on economic complexity?
It'd be number one, I would have thought. Let me check.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not number one. If I think that there would be some small nations which...
it'd be number one for sure.
You think?
Oh no, 12th.
Yeah. So who's number one? I'm guessing it's like Singapore or something, like a small nation.
Oh yeah, it could be. Or Dubai maybe.
That has to really make better use of everything it's got, rather than us just digging stuff out of the ground, not like demonizing it at home and just selling it abroad.
Oh, I've just brought up another one. It says the United States is currently ranked number one.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yep, don't know.
Anyway, what this professor was saying was that Mark Carney was literally chosen to, like, Canada's the same as us. They've been in managed decline for over a decade, essentially.
Yeah.
They're not trying to build that country anymore. They are trying to pilfer as much wealth out of that country as they possibly can before it destroys itself. Same as what we're doing over here in Australia at the moment. And yeah, Mark Carney is literally a banker. That's his background. And like Alex said, he has been at the forefront of every major economic crisis in the last 20 years. So he has literally been handpicked.
30 years.
30 years. He's been hand-selected to be put in that position to allow the global elite to essentially buy off the wealth from Canada at a discounted price before it completely crumbles.
And now what he's trying to do, and the reason why he's here, is to gather a coalition of the willing. He calls them medium powers. He wants a bunch of medium power countries
to
speak from a position of strength to negotiate with Donald Trump. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a coalition of the betas. So this is the pushback from the globalists. He is a globalist pig in the trough.
Yep.
This is all part of the pushback from the globalist system. And this probably segues us into talking about Iran, unless you had something else that you wanted to cover first.
No, I actually think that my topic's probably more pertinent after we've spoken about geopolitics.
Okay, yeah, go to that first.
So let's move to England. We haven't spoken a whole lot about England recently, but there has been some significant changes over there. We have spoken about Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, but have you noticed they've gone really quiet?
They have.
They don't, and the reason being is they've actually turned their back somewhat on what everyone thought they were going to be. They thought they were literally, like in the name, they were going to reform Britain. And they were going to fix all the problems. And they had all the right things to say at the start, but then as it progressed, those things, they started to sort of backflip on some of the stuff that was really major. And Nigel Farage in particular hasn't really passed the pub test when he gets grilled about some of these things that he's changed his mind on.
Yeah.
But there's a new contender.
I just want to say, just to give people context, a really good example of that has been the immigration debate. So a lot of people who are supporting Nigel Farage and reform off the back of Donald Trump's presidential victory were thinking that when reform came into power, they were going to do mass deportations as well, just like Trump. And he has walked that back. He's not talking about that anymore. He's basically said he wants to stop illegal immigration and cut the numbers of legal migrants, but he has said that mass deportations are not part of his priority. So that's a massive flip from just 12 months ago.
So one of the guys that was actually on his team has defected, and he has started his own party called Restore Britain.
Right.
Now, he's been a backbencher for a while. He went and funded his own candidacy in a small county there. Don't call them counties, whatever they call them. And he won the seat, and he realized there's nothing that he can do. The system is so broken that he started his own political party. I think this only happened 2 weeks ago. So this is pretty hot off the press. Now, I've consumed this week probably 8 hours worth of interviews with him. And I want to start by saying this. Literally everything he said is exactly what I would do personally if I was in charge of a country.
Interesting.
He's a businessman. He's a farmer. I'm not a farmer. I'd like to farm bees one day. He's a farmer. He's a businessman. Very well spoken. Very, and I've got a video of his essentially his kickoff video, and we can watch as much as you want. It is 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably a bit long, but we can start off and see how we go.
We can start, but he is such an impressive man. And then I've even listened to him in their equivalent of the Senate estimates hearings, where he's grilling. There was a police division that was sorry. This was with Treasury, and he was talking about a new payment rails that they're building. And he's in the know enough about technology, even though he's an old guy. We've spoken about it on the show, Essentia, who gets these contracts. So the Bureau of Meteorology website that costs $95 million instead of $5 million. Essentia is in the middle of that. They build $60 million worth of work to it.
Yeah, right.
He knew the scam. He's like, I know that anything that they touch literally blows out. So how have you protected the IP? I know what they do with the contracts. Are we making sure that we don't have to employ them long term after the contract's done? He is so aware of it, and he's treating it like a business. Where are the metrics on this? How can you be the minister of efficiency when you have no numbers?
Yeah.
You can't produce numbers. You've told me you're going to keep producing numbers. I've asked 900 times formally for numbers. 600 replies I've got say we cannot supply them.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, I want to show you, this man's name is Rupert Lowe, and he is potentially the next Prime Minister of England.
I have chosen to speak to you today from the farm because places like this represent what proper Britain is about. Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love. On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain as a national political party. I'm now going to dedicate my life to finding, organising, funding, and providing hundreds of qualified candidates to present to the British people at the next general election. This process has already started, with invitations being issued to patriots in aligned political parties, Form, the Conservatives, the SDP, Advance, and more. In local politics, we will work in partnership with localised political parties, such as Great Yarmouth First, that have the best interests of their residents at heart, combining our forces at the next general election. The men and women standing for Restore in that election will not be politicians. I promise you that. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be tainted by failures of the past. They will be from business, from the military, from science, from medicine, from education, from industry, representing real communities up and down the country. Every single one will be from well outside the existing political establishment, and every single one will understand the difficult decisions that need to be taken. Because there are no easy fixes. I'm not going to tell you comforting lies about the condition of our country. I have only ever been honest with the British people, and I will be straight with you now. What is necessary will be incredibly painful. But for the first time in a very long time, voters will have a genuine alternative which is truthful with them about the scale of what now has to be done. The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported. The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive. If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave. Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you. If that means millions go, then millions go. We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered. Protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers to live off the back of hard-working men and women. If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple. Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits. We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities, build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labor shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax, and endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise. We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must crush parasitic Britain. We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again. But Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people. And Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased. We will celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. In short, a high-trust society. That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult and it will be painful, but I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our...
What do you think?
I can only get so erect. You got to give me a warning. Look, it's really, really sad that such a message will be seen as so controversial in 2026.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the things that the social justice warriors and far-left activists will just never truly understand, is the hypocrisy of claiming that such a statement is racist, which is what they will claim, and yet any other race that comes to a Western nation, whether it's Australia or the UK, will never be expected to abandon their culture. So you are they want want the people who built these safe, high trust societies in the West. They want those people to completely forget their own culture and replace it with cultures that are coming from regions of the world which are nowhere near as safe or prosperous as what they're coming to, which is why they're coming here in the first place. And at the same time, you don't see these far left activists leaving these safe Western nations to go and live within these cultures that they claim to care about. The second thing I'll say is, how refreshing is it to have essentially a right-wing leader speak so calmly?
Yeah.
You know,
He's not inflaming tensions.
No, it's not. That's not Donald Trump, right? He's saying very similar things to what Trump was saying, but the way that he's saying it is very calm, very methodical, and I do think that to a certain cohort of people, that is the better way to get the message across to people who disagree with you.
I mean, we've spoken offline about this a lot, is how people are offended by the way they agree with the message, but not how the message was delivered. Yeah,
because they love being lied to by slick people in suits.
Yeah, and that's like you're not supposed to trust them.
That's right.
But what a great litmus test is, if you are a slimy rat, you say the popular thing and just don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, look at Mamdani, right? Mamdani's the perfect example. Mamdani campaigned on, decreasing the cost of buses and decreasing taxes on the low and middle class and giving out free welfare and taxing the rich. And then as soon as he came into power, he's like, okay, so we're in this massive budget hole, and to fix it, we're going to have to raid the rainy day fund. We're going to have to raid your pensions. Like, literally, it flipped on a dime as soon as he became the leader. So they say whatever
the hard thing.
Yeah, they say
the hard thing. You're not lying about the hard thing, because it's easier to say the easy thing.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he was honest about the fact that to fix things, it will be painful. Because look at what that's the truth. Like, look at what Argentina went through, right? When Milei took over in Argentina, one of the first things he did was cut a whole bunch of government bureaucracies to save cost, but he also cut a whole bunch of welfare. And in Argentina, when he took office, it was like 50% of the people in that country got the majority of their income from government benefits. So those people started hurting immediately when he took over. And 12 months later, when inflation went from like 2,000% down to 20% people were cheering for him in the streets. Because it can be done, but it is painful.
Well, we spoke about it last week when we were going through that stupid Instagram reel, that the assumption is that we need to have immigrants to wipe our bums in the future. But like he said so nicely is, well, no, how about we get the British people back to work?
Yeah.
And then so let's send millions of people away, and think about, put yourself in the Australian context, right? If we sent 1 million people home, what would that do to housing prices?
Yeah, they would go down. Rental prices would go down.
What would happen to the prices of shit on the street?
It would all go down because you remove demand from an economy.
Now, I have to say, what that video that I got is the least impressive thing that he has said. Like I said, I've consumed 8 to 10 hours of his stuff.
Yep.
People have tried to pin him down, tried to trick him, tried to bully him. He is so smart. He is so smart. And he looks at things in many ways the same way Trump does as a business, which I think is useful. He definitely tries to defend the public purse, like taxpayers' money. He's hyper aware. He doesn't take the money. So his parliamentary money he donates to charity. So he refused to take it. He's lost a whole bunch of money because he's self-funded his campaign. He also did this, Jason. So he kicked off about the Pakistani rape gang case. And he was in Parliament asking for an inquiry, knowing it wasn't going to happen. So he started his own crowdfunding of it, raised £600,000, did his own investigation, his own inquiry into it, and they're now going to civilly pursue everyone involved. And so the justice is going to be outside of the system, not inside the system.
And can we also, again, I just want to remind people, so we've said on the show a few times before, what Australia is doing puts us about 10 to 15 years behind the UK, but we're on the same path.
Yeah, absolutely.
10 to 15 years ago is when all this Pakistani rape gang stuff began and was pushed under the rug. and was ignored essentially for a decade before people actually started speaking up about it and bringing it up. And even the current Labor government goes to every length that they possibly can to cover it up and call anyone who talks about it bigots and right-wing extremists and all the same things that we see over here in Australia. But at the end of the day, the guts of that entire story was that men from a certain region of the world were essentially kidnapping and raping white British girls because they were white.
Yeah.
It was because they were white. So again, you cannot say someone is racist for wanting to remove these Pakistani men from their country when it's those very Pakistani men who were deliberately targeting white British girls because they were white. Yeah. This is about trying to keep you safe. It is not about your feelings. I don't care how you feel about the matter. This happened 15 years ago. So it should have already been dealt with in a just world, but it wasn't.
His approach to being called racist, because he gets called racist a lot, is I don't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't care about being called racist either.
But I've just pulled up their policies, right? Because it's, people don't check policies.
No, of course not. Why would you?
So I've just gone to the economy and taxation part, and I just want to read through some of it. So scrap IR35. IR35 treats independent contractors like employees for tax purposes without giving them any rights. It is daylight robbery. So that is the same here. Yeah, they've changed. The Labor government changed. We have this same rule here. Freelancers, startups, and small businesses thrive on flexibility. IR35 strangles that with the bureaucracy and confusion holding back innovation and job creation. IR35 is not about fairness. It is about squeezing more money out of honest contractors. The result, less work, more red tape, and widespread confusion. The self-employed keep Britain running. IR35 drives them away from contracts, out of work, even overseas. Scrap IR35 to restore fairness. Abolish inheritance tax. IHT undermines the right to freely pass on wealth to one's children, penalising those who save, invest, and build businesses by taxing assets that are already taxed during the owner's lifetime. I'm a big believer in this.
Correct, I agree.
Either. Lowest corporate tax in Europe. Slash the corporation tax to the lowest in Europe. Send a signal. Entrepreneurs, risk takers, innovators are welcome in Britain. This move would attract investment, retain growing British companies, and reverse the trend of corporations relocating abroad. Replace the bloated, loophole-riddled system with simple, flat, low-rate, clear, fair, and competitive tax. Introducing tax holidays for new businesses to give them the breathing space needed to get off the ground. Offer additional deductions or incentives to companies that invest in UK-based manufacturing, research, training, and infrastructure. If you're creating British jobs and building long-term growth, you'll be rewarded. Lower rates don't mean lower revenue. Ireland proved that. The most effective way to maximise tax revenue is to generate as much wealth as possible, allowing for a robust and affordable safety net. Stop punching profit. Just an interesting side topic. I was having an interesting conversation with a couple of young guys yesterday, and I was talking about immigration, its effect on housing, but I also said I can point to the one policy decision that inflated the property price by 40 to 50%. And that is ScoMo's COVID stimulus money. Printing 40% of the money supply and giving it out for free increased asset prices by that same number. Okay. Paying people to be at home was the single dumbest, most crippling thing that has ever happened in my lifetime in an economy.
Yeah, I agree.
And when we look back on it, the best argument you can have is we didn't know. We knew, we said it on this show, how bad that policy was going to be. Anyone that knows anything about an economy knew that was going to happen. Okay, it was guaranteed to happen. And then one of the guys asked a really good question, which is, house prices are never going to fall to a significant margin. They're never going to come down 40%, which is right. He goes, so are we screwed forever? And I said, no, you can grow your wealth base back to a level where you can afford those inflated properties.
Correct.
But not through, it has to be through productive means.
That's right.
It's not like what Labor's doing, where they're employing overpriced bureaucrats, paying them too much money to do nothing to create more work for the people that actually create things. So if you remove the red tape, we've said it here a bunch of times, if you remove the red tape, like what he's talking about, lower the tax rate,
yep,
the entire tax base increases. You get more revenue for charging less. It's so hard for people to understand that. But I guess the best example is cigarettes. Cigarettes have proven that upping the tax constantly not only decreases the income of that taxation, but creates a black market for a competitor. And that competitor can supply the same product at 1/6 of the price illicitly.
Yeah. And also, just to give you another example on the other side of this and countries that have already tried it, I think it might have been Sweden just brought in a wealth tax recently, maybe within the last 12 to 18 months, expecting it to raise somewhere around an extra $120 million in revenue. But because they brought it in, a whole bunch of billionaires left the country. So they ended up having a tax take of $400 million less than what they typically do. So it was a net loss of about $500 million because they tried to increase the taxes and they encouraged those people to go elsewhere.
And I have to say, another side topic, I'm going to keep bringing it up because I keep seeing it on social media. It's blowing up. Everyone knows this thing. Everyone knows this stat on the street, which is we give our gas away for free.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's a huge thing. Now, is it real? Yes, it's real. But what's the fucking point of arguing to pay more tax?
That's right.
When the other side of the ledger is wasteful.
Yeah.
Stop government spending first, then top up your revenue.
And it's
book.
actively theft.
It's active
like
theft.
we just
100%.
we just covered the CFMEU story, which is just one story out of Victoria where it's estimated between $15 to $30 billion has been funneled into organised crime. I also saw this week too, there was another company, it might have been a traffic control company, which just got canned or banned from job sites up in Queensland because that was set up by Mick Gatto. So obviously knowing that you've got the 2032 Olympics coming, there was going to be a bunch of work up here. There was going to be CFMEU-based work through the state government system. So Mick Gatto, who has had his fingers in the trough down in Victoria, set up companies up in Queensland to try to pilfer more of that money.
Jason, those lollipop people, when they work on union sites at night, they get paid $180,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Low corporate tax. We spoke about that. Tax remittances. Britain must stop being treated as a cash machine for the rest of the world. Every year, billions of pounds are sent abroad in remittances. Money earned here but drained out of our economy to support families and communities overseas. This flow of money encourages mass migration. Migrants come not to contribute to Britain, as our leaders still insist, but to extract wealth and export it abroad. It is a pipeline that drains our communities while strengthening the foreign economies at Britain's expense.
That's exactly what
kind of like
happens
what's
here
happening
too.
in Minnesota.
And here.
Yep. A levy on remittances would disincentivize this practice, discouraging economic migration and encourage those who come here to only send money away to think again. It would also incentivize those already here to return home. Taxing remittances would keep more wealth circulating in our economy, reduce the pull factors driving mass migration, and send a clear message: if you're here, your duty is to Britain, not to foreign states. Okay, I like this one. Social benefits for Brits only. And I reckon if you posed this question 15 years ago, it would have been obvious. It would have been obvious that the only people that should receive government money would be citizens of the country.
Bro, go and listen to an old Hillary Clinton speech. She used to talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
She was the most far-right person ever.
Yeah, it was built to support its own people, not to act as a magnet for the world. Yet today, migrants who were not even born in this country are able to access benefits, council housing, and other forms of taxpayer support. This must end. Introduce legislation to make all core social benefits, including universal credit, child benefit, housing benefit, available only to British citizens. Mandate that local authorities allocate social housing on a British first basis, prioritising young, married British couples seeking to start families. If a foreign national can't house themselves, they should go home.
Totally agree.
For migrants legally resident in the UK, require lengthy contribution record before they can apply for a far more rigorous citizenship application process. Those who do not contribute do not claim. Offer targeted housing for tax incentives to British couples who marry and have children, supporting family formation and reversing the decline of the British birth rate. Britain's welfare state has created by and for the British people. It should serve them and only them.
Again, should not be controversial. Like, there should be no world. And again, this is where, like... So, one of the comments that we got during the week about... specifically about the Iran war, was that someone just basically exclaimed, saying, the world is so broken.
Yeah.
I need to tell you guys, the world is not broken. The world has always been like this. There has always been conflict. There always will be conflict.
Did I say it on the show last week? I watched... No, I mustn't have. I watched Team America World Police on the weekend. That movie was made in 2004. The story's exactly the same. It's just different countries, like different leaders, different celebrities. It's exactly the same.
It's 22 Jump Street. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. But also, go and read. And I had this thought only in the last couple of days. I think everyone should just go and read one book about history.
Mm-hmm.
Just one. Anyone. Any book about history.
Yeah.
And you'll realise that it's no different. This is a human condition.
But it's not even human. This is a natural condition. This is nature.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because like the point that I made to this listener was, go for a bushwalk and look around. And everyone just thinks, oh, when I get out into nature, everything's so pristine and I feel so calm and relaxed and I'm like in touch with the environment. Actually go and get in touch with the environment. So when you actually go for a bushwalk and you're walking through the bush and you look around, it's chaos. So things aren't, like trees, for example, aren't perfectly situated in spots that guarantee their safety and sunshine and water and resources. They are fighting for survival. You've got trees literally trying to outgrow each other early on to be able to steal the sunlight away from surrounding trees. You've got strangler vines that climb up other trees to get to the pinnacle at the top to take the sunlight and strangle the life out of those trees. You've got animals.
I watch my kookaburras. So there's these beautiful kookaburras that sit on on this tree near me, and I love their laughter. I love it. Yeah. I love kookaburras. And then as soon as you said those minor birds come up, and they're saying, fuck off, fuck off. And it's like, they're not sweet things. Like, that's the natural world.
But that is nature. So the thing is, you need to understand this. If you think that you will only be happy if the world stops having conflict, you will never be happy.
Yeah.
So the world itself is not broken. This is the way the world has always been and will always be. Our response to the natural world is what's broken in the West.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah,
we have been programmed to be completely incompatible with the natural order of things.
More so in the cities.
Totally agree. Because they're the safest parts of the country.
Essentially, the cities are like a bird aviary.
Yeah. Really good way of describing it.
The natural predators are outside of the aviary.
Yep.
And it's only this sweet, cohesive thing inside. As soon as you open the aviary, all those birds are dead.
And the government comes and sprinkles a little bit of grain inside your aviary, so you've got just enough to exist, but you're literally living in a cage your entire life. But that's the thing, like, it is... You actually need to understand this is the natural order of things. This is the way that things will always be. Otherwise, you're going to be very upset all the time.
Well, good segue into the war. Let's talk about the war.
All right, let's talk about the war. Do you want to start off with it? Because I got something. I sent something to a mate of mine the other day that I might read out, which is sort of touching on deeper issues about this.
I've had a bunch of young people come to me and say, hey, what do you think about this war? And I'm like, it's good. And they're like, oh, really? And I've been anti-war in the past, but these wars have been very different to the wars that have happened in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And how they are different is that what Trump's doing that previous US presidents didn't do is delete the problem day one.
Yep.
Maduro, day one.
Yep.
Iran nuclear facility, 6 months ago, whatever, day one.
Yep. Now, just to remind people on that, everyone who speaks about these things online was saying, this is the start of World War III, we're going to have another forever war in the Middle East. And they call that now the 12-day war. It was over in 12 days.
So, okay, I'm glad that you brought that up. It's okay to feel that.
Agreed, because previous history tells us that. Yeah, absolutely.
But take it from someone that was going to go to Afghanistan, right? There was a period of my life where I was charged up, ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I stayed very close to that conflict and realized, oh shit, this is a massive scam.
Because you look like a double agent too.
Yeah,
you'd have been very successful over there.
Valmorification. Now, just to paint a bit of a picture, when we went to Iraq, Saddam Hussein lasted months and months and months and months and months before they got him, and they didn't. The military didn't get him. The public did. Oh no, I'm thinking Gaddafi.
You're thinking Gaddafi. Yeah, no, the military got him.
The military got him.
But again,
it was months.
But here's the other thing too. Don't pretend the military didn't know where he was the whole time.
Yeah, 100%. Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan. We knew that.
Everyone
they were telling us that on the news.
Yeah.
And we were in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And then,
like, well,
and then as soon as Trump organised the pullout of Afghanistan, which was then completed under Biden, they just went next door and picked up Osama straight afterwards.
Well, it's 9 years. 9 years in, they got bin Laden.
Yeah.
But in Pakistan, we knew he was there the whole time. So that's where this is very different. Now, do I think there is maybe read your thing first, because I want to sort of take it to a bit of a higher level, which I think people aren't.
Well, mine's a bit of a higher level, and this is, you're going to have to pull out your tinfoil hats for this one, guys, because there is a lot more to this than people think. So I'm not going to say everyone. I want to start off this by saying, remember, we're in a war for your consciousness and for your mind. So the majority of the chatter that I have seen in regards to this conflict, you've got some people saying this is US imperialism, military-industrial complex, trying to start a new forever war to flood money into the military-industrial complex. That's one way of looking at it. You've got the other people saying this is all Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel using the US to fight their enemies in the region. You've got the people saying that this is another illegal war and, think of the innocent Iranian civilians. You've got the people saying the Iranian civilians have been calling for this support for a long, long time and wanting, they were living, like 30,000 protesters got killed just over a month ago for literally protesting against the government. So there's all these different conflicting narratives which are all happening at the same time. But there is one narrative which I'm just not seeing anywhere, which I think is far more relevant to this than what people think. And so I tried to sound it out with a mate of mine the other day. So the first thing I said to him was, who really runs the world? Who would you say runs the world, Alex?
Banks.
Central bankers.
Yeah.
Now, when people think banks and central bankers, they immediately think it's the Jews, right? Because like the Rothschilds and stuff like that.
Yeah, they invented central banking.
Yeah. But
they invented banking.
But a lot of the roots of the central banking system come from Britain, from the UK. Okay? So this is what I think happened, to give you a bit of a play-by-play. So when Trump first won office back in 2016, he wasn't expecting to win, and he was unconsciously incompetent. So we use that term a lot on this show. Unconsciously incompetent.
You're talking in 2016.
In 2016, yeah. So unconscious incompetence means you don't know what you're doing, and you don't even know that you don't know what you're doing because the amount of things about that thing you don't know. So when we talk about the scales of competence, you go from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent. That means I've learned what I don't know and I have to learn those things before I then become consciously competent, which means I'm good at the thing now, but I have to still actively think about all the elements to it every single day. And then as you progress, you end up becoming unconsciously competent, where you're just good at the thing and it's just like natural for you, right? You just flow on and you're just really, really good at it. So when he first came into office in 2016, he was unconsciously incompetent, not only on how to do the job, but more importantly, who to employ and who to take advice from. And the system fucked him. Then he had the 2020 election stolen by the same system. So, and you got to remember back to like his first presidential period, 2016 to 2020, was a complete pushback from the globalist system against Trump. Because Trump...
drained the swamp.
Yep, so he talked about draining the swamp. And what happened? We had the multiple impeachments, we had Russiagate, we had COVID kickoff in the last year of his term. So the globalists pushed back against him because he was never supposed to win. Okay? So when he had the 2020 election stolen, he spent the next 4 years researching who truly is the power structure, who he was a gigantic threat to, and game planning on how he would defeat them if he returned to office. And I said previous to him winning the election, there is absolutely no way that Trump would have run for president again if he wasn't a true believer. He put his life in danger. They almost killed him. He's the only president in history to come out of office with less money than when he went into office. It's all bad news for him, right?
Yeah.
And that power structure is the British crown, along with traditional European kingdoms. So you're talking the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Spain, etc. And there's been an interesting wrinkle about Spain. I don't know if you saw it this week. Did you see what happened with Spain?
No.
So Spain has refused to give the American military access to a US military base, which is in Spain. So Spain is actively trying to stop Trump from doing what he's trying to do.
Yep.
So Trump announced this week, Spain's banned. They're not doing any trade with Spain. He announced it a few days ago. He's banned.
Oh no! What happens to the chorizo trade?
Well, they'll be making chorizo in the United States of America.
Texas.
So basically, any Euro country that is still a kingdom and has its roots set way in the past to old power dynamics. So you have to... I know this is sounding tinfoil hatty to a lot of you who are hearing a lot of this information for the first time. But you need to remember what kingdoms are. Kingdoms are giant predetermined power structures which get passed on from generation to generation of the same families. And what's interesting, we've covered this many times on the show, about even when you look back at, say, all the information that came out about JFK's assassination and when they released all those documents, and you start realizing that all the surnames that were involved in that are all the same surnames as what is involved in politics now.
I mean, I'll give you the biggest one that people don't seem to really talk about. World War One, the German Kaiser, the Tsar of Russia, and the King of England were all cousins.
They're related.
They were related.
Yeah.
And they all fought each other.
Yeah. And like, just to give you another example from the current world, Ursula von der Leyen, who is the head of the European Union, who is heavily corrupt herself, she's the one, just as a reminder, who negotiated the vaccine deal directly with Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, by text message for the entire European Union, and never released the details of not only what the text messages said, but even how much money they were paying for them.
Commercially in confidence.
Commercial in confidence. So you have to think this is old power. We're talking old power. That's what the system is. The system is old power. Monarchies controlling the world through the central banking system. Okay? The things Trump has been doing since he came into office has been directly aimed at the Europeans and their globalized control structures they have built over a long period of time. Drill baby drill was his campaign slogan, because the Euros have been using the green energy revolution to control who has access to power and who doesn't. And when I say power, I mean energy.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a giant money-making scam. It was about the most powerful commodity in the world, which is energy security. By Trump rejecting the Green New Deal, making the US tap into its vast energy reserves itself, it removes them from that control structure. It also shows the world how terrible the green energy movement is for their own countries, right? Now, also, you have to consider the fact that unlocking drill baby drilling for 12 months was a pretty smart thing to do before you kick off war in the Middle East again, isn't it?
Oh, and also taking
Venezuela first, and securing their oil reserves before you kick off war in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So again, this is, a lot of people think Trump's this erratic guy who just shoots from the hip.
It's 4D chess. And don't forget when he just met the king. What did he do to the king when he met King Charles?
Oh, he did it shook his hand or something that he wasn't supposed to.
Grabbed his arm.
Yeah.
Grabbed his arm. You're supposed to do that, but it was like a call me daddy.
Daddy's home.
Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to continue. That's what this war in Iran is really about. Who controls energy in the world? And the irony is, it's not actually the Middle East. They produce the majority of the oil. However, the people who truly control access to it were the British.
British Petroleum.
Let me explain. And this is because all the oil tankers travel through a place called the Strait of Hormuz, which is controlled by Iran. However, the key component has always been who provides insurance to these oil tankers, because it's so expensive if they go down, and the majority of insurance companies can't afford it. There is one company that has been providing this insurance for about 100 years, maybe longer, which is Lloyd's of London. And they just announced, so this happened this week as well, that due to the hostilities in Iran, they will no longer be offering insurance to takers going through the strait, effectively crippling the global energy market. So this is why you're seeing on the news everyone talking about fuel prices, petrol prices, right? War kicks off in the Middle East, they shut down the Strait of Hormuz, there's less oil around, price per barrel goes up, everyone suffers. Except Trump announced yesterday that the US this was Wednesday, it might have been. The US International Development Finance Corporation would fill the gap and insure the ships for a reasonable price. Not only that, the US Navy would be instructed to escort the ships. Their Navy has been protecting that channel for decades anyway. So in other words, the US has stolen the power to control who can access energy through the Strait of Hormuz from the British, effectively destroying the main global control system overnight. So we won't see the oil shortages and high fuel prices we usually see when there's a conflict in the Middle East. Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, when I saw that news about Trump underwriting the insurance, I was like, oh, that's like the biggest corporate undercut deal that I think I've ever seen in my life. Maybe besides the Tether's deal's probably up there, but it actually made me think about. Again, I read a history book. Mm-hmm. The history book talked about the British Empire, and the British East India Company. They did that. Like they had the shipping lanes.
Yep.
And they used the British Navy to protect its interests.
Yep.
And that's where Lloyd's of London sort of kicked off and sort of have come out of there. It is a genius deal. Now, it's funny because my higher level thing, because we haven't really spoken about this before.
And I'll, before you get into yours, can I provide a bit more evidence about Trump directly attacking the Europeans? Okay, so there's been a few other things. Number one, drill baby drill obviously means that the US has actually become the largest exporter of energy in the world, all of a sudden. Okay, that does a few things all at the same time. Number one, it makes them completely energy secure, so they can do these things in the Middle East without having any consequences for their own people. Number two, it actually helps to defund Russia's war machine. Because what a lot of people forget about is Russia is a gigantic energy exporter and have essentially been funding their war machine using the price of oil because they are an exporter and gas.
I think when Biden put the sanctions on Russia, the barrel price went up to $120 a barrel, which made Putin $100 billion in a day.
Yeah, and countries that were supposed to be adhering to these sanctions, like India, just ignored it and were just buying oil from them anyway because they needed the oil.
And we, even though Russian was sanctioned, were buying Russian oil from India and from China at a markup.
Correct. Now, I also want to point to the other things that Trump has been doing directly towards the Europeans. Number one, you brought it up a few weeks ago on the show, freedom of speech and online censorship. So remember, Donald Trump literally, his administration has started a website for Europeans to access truthful, uncensored information online because the European Union is so big on censorship. And we know, because we talk about it on the show every single day, censorship is all about control. it is sold to you in the form of the perception of safety, right? Perception of safety, but it is all about control. When the Twitter files were dropped, the majority of the pushback against Twitter and these social media platforms during COVID was actually from the European Union. Okay? So they are this globalist scumbag organization, which isn't, this is old power. This is the kingdoms of Europe still exporting colonial control over the globe using underhanded means, right?
Yeah.
What was one? Oh, the other thing too was tariffs. When Trump brought in the tariffs, remember all of the hullabaloo, a lot of it came from Europe because a lot of European nations, so part of the agreement after World War II, so when World War II ended and you essentially created the new, what they call it, the rules-based order with America as the centerpiece, part of the agreement was that European nations would be allowed to charge America tariffs for American goods, essentially to assist Europe in rebuilding after the war. But those tariffs just never went away. So American manufacturers have constantly been up against an unfair playing field.
Essentially subsidizing Europe.
Correct, but also not just Europe, also China. Because China was the beneficiary of those tariffs as well, because it made US goods far more expensive, which is what made China into the economic superpower it became. This is the irony of China. They are a communist nation which became a superpower through capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what was interesting, when Donald Trump announced all of these aggressive tariffs on Europe, who did the Europeans immediately run to for help? The Chinese.
True.
On day one. As soon as Trump mentioned tariffs towards Europe, Europe threatened to go and talk to China and cozy up with China, which just shows you where their allegiances really are. They're not allied with the West. They want to control the world. And this is the thing when you have to think about, like, that's why I really like that Predictive History channel. It's all about game theory. He talks a lot about, like, this current conflict, for example. Everyone has different agendas. So obviously the US wants global control. Europe wants global control. China wants global control. Israel wants global control. And at the moment, it appears like the US and Israel are completely aligned on the things that they are doing, which is why there's these constant discussions about who runs who. You know, everyone talks about AIPAC in America. Oh, Israel's running the US politicians and is basically running it. Benjamin Netanyahu is running America. But it could also equally be argued that America wants access to Israel to essentially launch military operations in the Middle East. Like, they are their proxy in the region. Yeah. So who's really running who? And at the moment, it appears like the US and Israel are completely aligned in their strategic goals in the world. However, it's just because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And when the threat of Iran is removed, there will come to a point when Israel will want to remove America from the region. Because they want the Middle East. They want to control the Middle East.
Yeah.
And ironically, with dragging the US into war in the Middle East, it actually helps further their goals to have other Middle Eastern nations which are cozy with America not want hands in the conflict and to remove American military infrastructure from their countries. Because they will believe that the US is the reason why all of these conflicts are kicking off. This is why I keep saying it is a war for your mind and for your psyche.
Yeah.
Because there are 50 different layers to what's going on with this one particular conflict, and you're not receiving any of them.
I'll just add a quick side note. So one of the things that has come up this week, and it is fair, but I just thought I would address it, which is there is a big thing that just because Israel's doing it, they're always the bad guy.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'd argue, we've said it on the show, what they've done in Gaza is wrong.
Correct.
Okay. You don't need to freaking flatten Gaza to stop Hamas.
Yep.
And I think the US is kind of proving that they're doing it in a far more strategic way, more effectively elsewhere. But just because they've done bad things doesn't mean they're always doing bad things.
Correct. It's
right?
the same for everyone in life.
Totally. Now, so that's interesting. That is very interesting, the royal connection. Mine is kind of tangential to that.
Okay.
Which is, I think this is a new crusade.
Interesting.
So I've been doing a bit of, I'm single, right?
We've
I live
noticed.
by myself. So I got a lot of time on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
What I've been consuming lately, outside of the Restore Britain,
Mm-hmm.
is studying the Crusades,
Okay.
studying the New Testament of the Bible, and studying the Old Testament of the Bible. And what I find very interesting, and I think it's easily it's very easy to join these dots, is Britain wouldn't exist without its crusade over the Holy Land in like the year 1060 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for those that don't know, after the Roman Empire fell, we went into the Dark Ages, and not a lot of shit happened in the West during the Dark Ages.
No.
Okay, so who was thriving during the Dark Ages was the Islamic Republic. Islam in the Middle East was thriving. The Qing dynasty in China was growing, and they were thriving. But nothing was really happening in the West. It wasn't until one of the popes in England said, "Dude, we need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go take Jerusalem back. Let's go take the Holy Land back." That's where the Crusades, the first Crusade, happened, right? And there's been 8 goes at it. So essentially, between the Christians and the Muslims, have been fighting over that pocket of the world for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Okay. What I find interesting is there are a bunch of countries that are primarily Muslim countries that the West has no problems with.
Mm-hmm.
Dubai, Saudi Arabia, the Arab Emirates, Qatar, Brunei. They perfectly decent relationship with those countries.
Mm-hmm.
The countries that we have poor relations with are the more extreme versions of Islam.
Yeah.
Iran, Iraq after Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
So Saddam Hussein wasn't, like, he actually was not a radical Islamist, right? And
before you think that Alex is a racist for pointing this out, you probably need to go and look at some interviews from some of the heads of state of those Muslim countries like Saudi and Dubai, who talk about the problems with Muslims in the West. And the fact that they don't have those problems because they remove the radicals from their own society, and that the West needs to wake up and do the same thing. Yeah. So when you look at when I say recent conflicts, I mean in the last sort of 20 years, it seems to me, at least, and no one's saying it out loud, but to me, this is a way for, essentially, it's a holy war, Christianity versus Islam, radical Islam, like the more radical Islamic countries. Yep. So Iran, for example, when it was essentially Persian prior, was a pretty liberal democracy, right? Yeah. And then the Ayatollah comes in, and the Islamic Revolution happens, and it becomes full-blown extreme Islam. Sharia law. Under Sharia law, yeah. Gaza, Sharia law. Okay? Iran, Sharia law. The UK, Sharia law. Yeah. There are Sharia courts in London now. Yeah. So, to me, now, the only thing I haven't been able to connect is, why is America doing it when England should be? Because they were the ones in the Crusades first. But maybe it falls into what you're saying.
in that there are outside interests or like essentially Islam's been winning that fight?
Well, I think what we're experiencing today is essentially what the world experienced preceding the Crusades, right? You've had the rise of radical Islam throughout the world. That happened now. That's happened back then. And it gets to a point where the Christians essentially wake up and go, this has gone on long enough and we need to go on the offense now. And it's interesting that you bring up this point, because one of the things that a lot of people keep talking about in regards to Trump and the Trump administration's activities here is there is a big Christian religious bent to all of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've seen, there's been a lot of footage about like people standing in the Oval Office with Trump, with preachers blessing Trump while he's making these decisions, right? Now, the thing that I find fascinating about this from a human nature perspective is, it's the chicken or the egg. Is it a religious crusade, or is religion just one of the most powerful belief systems that you can use to unite your people toward a common cause?
Yeah. Okay. I have some thoughts on that only because I've started consuming some of this biblical stuff.
Genuine question.
And I've always said, I think organized religion is great to give humanity a framework, a basic framework of what it means to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost all religions have some pretty good tenets about how you should run your life.
Yep.
Okay. Arguably, Christianity is the best. And the reason why I say that is because all the people are trying to get to Christian countries, not to some of the other ones. There isn't an exodus towards the other religious countries, right?
Can I just say on that on that note, because I do think I agree with you. Now, just as a precursor, Alex and I are not Christians. We're not really religious people, right? We've always believed that there is something else out there, but we're show us the data. Like, if you can't see it, you can't feel it. So we understand there's something out there we don't understand. We're just not 100% convinced of what that is. But out of these three main religions, and there's obviously far more religions than just Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, but these are the three that keep getting... The three big dogs that keep fighting with each other, right? Out of the three, the reason why I believe that Christianity is the best system to build a high-trust, cohesive society is because out of those three main religions, they're the only religion that preaches forgiveness.
Yeah.
They're the only one.
Yeah, and you can tell, and you can prove this with your lefty liberal friends when you bring up, like, you want to protect radical Islam.
Yeah.
That's like the amount of women that I've spoken to that want to protect them that don't even see you as a human.
That's right. They see you as property, and look at...
That's a Christian, like, ethos. Like, that's you want to forgive them for sins. They don't think that about you.
Now, what I also find interesting about the three different religions as well is Islam, at its core, is a crusading religion. So Islam, a lot of the teachings of Islam is about killing the non-believers and converting the masses. So it's essentially, if you have a country that is majority Islam, they have won. Now you need to spread out to other countries and essentially spread Islam into those countries. And that's what we're seeing. Like, again,
Caliphate, isn't it?
Sorry?
That's a caliphate.
You might be right. I'm 100% on the terminology. But, like, this is what you're seeing with... So I made the comment before about how there are Sharia law courts in the United Kingdom. That shouldn't happen, right? You cannot have competing judicial systems based on religious belief in the same country. That shouldn't happen. Try going to a majority Muslim country and saying, well, no, back in my country with my beliefs, that's not against the law, therefore it's okay. They would never accept it, right? So Islam, in its essence, it has some really good things about it. But again, we're talking about the radical elements of these different religions. The radical elements of Islam, it is a crusading religion at its very nature, and it seeks to take over and destroy competing ideologies.
Well,
sorry, let me just finish this off. Judaism, on the other hand, is very, very different. Very, very hard to become a Jew. If you come from a non-Jewish background and you want to convert to Judaism, very difficult process if you get let in at all. Yeah. So there is an insular nature of Jewish people, inherently Jewish people, which is what makes them so cohesive throughout the world. So you know, when everyone talks about like, oh, like the Jews run the media or the Jews are at the top of all these corporations. Yeah, it's because it's like a free pass when you go to places. And if a Jew's running this place and they know that you're a Jewish person, they will help you get success, right? They help each other. They're very, very insular in that regard. Christianity, on the other hand, very much a tolerant people.
Yeah.
Right? Come as you are, you know, preaching forgiveness, acceptance of other cultures, and being tolerant is what is taught to Christian people, which is why we see one thing over the other. All around the Western world, which is primarily founded on Christian values, they are essentially allowing the Trojan horses to come in and take over their societies.
Yeah.
This is not happening in majority Muslim nations. And I can tell you right now, the most monotheistic country on the planet is Israel. Right? You go to Israel, and yes, they will accept you and they'll be tolerant of you. But the dominant, like they are, like apart from, I think Iran was the same under Khamenei, but they are a theocracy, essentially a religious theocracy.
Well, the Old Testament is very telling, and the book is pretty fucking clear that God chose the Jews. And in like the you know, talking about Moses,
was it the Israelites specifically?
Israelites, yeah. Moses speaks to God. God tells them, so they're in servitude by the Egyptians, and God says, I want you to save the Jewish people, the Israelites, and I'll help you get out of Egypt. You have to slaughter a goat and use the blood to put a cross on your door, and I'll sort the rest. And what happens that night is that God kills the firstborn of everyone that is a non-Israelite.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very gruesome, very graphic, but it's very clear in the text that God chose them in particular over anyone else.
And you see that comment everywhere online at the moment. There's a lot of people who hate Israel for what they're doing and are very critical of the Jewish people on a whole. And you see a lot of people saying, but the Jews are God's chosen people.
Yeah.
Like that is...
the text says so.
That's right. And that's pretty radical thought process. But you could understand if you were a young child born into a devout Jewish family that preaches those beliefs, you would grow up thinking, well, I'm God's chosen people and all these other people are not.
Yeah. So that it was kind of shocking to me, because I remember doing a bit of religious studies which is funny, in a public school when I was in primary school, and I remember some of the stories, but I'm now thinking back to like, they didn't talk about the slaughter of the goats. They just said paint a red cross, you know.
Yeah.
They obviously didn't want to tell like grade 3s that
kill a goat.
Something more morbid had happened, but God killed a lot of Egyptians in that in the first part of that book.
Yeah.
But also I went and did some research on the Talmud, which is like essentially the rule book for the Jewish faith. And dude, it's strict.
Yeah.
Like there are some really strict rules. So when you have that information and then you layer that on top of what you're seeing today, it's not that surprising. Which is why what I didn't think about it the way that you did. Although no, I have actually had this conversation with someone before that you deal with one at a time. So okay, so something we do on this show is if we come up with these ideas, we'll try and set something up in the future to see if our prediction was right. Okay? So what we can do is, let's say Middle East gets sorted, like Iran gets sorted. Maybe Pakistan might be the next one, because that's pretty radically Islamic as well. Let's say after the dust settles there, if America has a worse relationship with Israel, if they turn on Israel or Israel turns on the US, it kind of proves what we were saying was right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is that a fair statement? So, and this might not happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but you, like Jason said, you need Israel because of their location. Israel is very deeply entrenched in essentially the whole world in terms of surveillance.
Yep.
They've become very smart, very adept at being small and being, you got to admit they're probably one of the most powerful nations per capita.
Absolutely. I think they're the most powerful nation on the planet per capita. They've only got 9 million people in Israel.
Yeah. So extremely smart. Whatever infrastructure they've built has been very well thought out. And, it does kind of fall into the Epstein stuff, like the way that they leverage power is probably all interconnected. But yeah, if I was to say that our statement is true, then Israel and America will have beef in the future.
They will.
And then that'll be an interesting thing to see.
But here's the other thing too that I guess is the burning question that you need to ask and you need to answer is, given that you've got these three competing religious ideologies, with essentially the US being at the forefront of Christianity, Israel being the forefront of Judaism, and Iran being the forefront of radical Islam, because we just mentioned there's all these different Islamic countries in the Middle East who essentially are westernized now.
Yeah.
If one of those three nations was to become the global superpower controlling the world, you'd want to hitch your wagon to the US. Because Christianity, like I said, is the only ideology which preaches tolerance and forgiveness.
Well, I had to say that to one of these young guys. He was one of the, and that's why I mentioned it, that just because Israel's involved doesn't mean it's bad. I said, if you had to choose between Islam or Judaism, like, what would you choose? And he goes, Islam. I'm like, really? Like, don't you like looking at girls' hair? Right? And he goes, actually, I hadn't thought about it like that. He'd just been like, had this Jew bad. And obviously social media is definitely like, it is, I wasn't a big believer
this
of
is
it being
competing for people's consciousness.
100%. It is, the internet has become far more anti-Semitic after the, and kind of rightfully so in that regard, but you can't have it in all regards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm with Jason in that, and proof's in the pudding, the world is moving by choice to Christian countries because they kick ass. And I've started like defending it pretty vehemently now when people say, it's like our country, like it's fucked and what we're doing is fucked. I'm like, where else would you go?
Yeah.
Like pick a country, pick any country, and what anyone's going to choose, and I even said this about like the Nordic countries. Everyone talks about the socialist aspect of it, how the Nordic countries are doing socialism. They're not even true socialists.
No.
But you have no intention of moving to Norway.
No.
You have no intention. People probably can't even point Norway out on a map. It's insignificant. No one cares.
Yeah.
Right? But you might do England. You might do Canada. You might do USA.
And the point that I'll make too about those Nordic countries that everyone points to when they talk about socialism, it's really easy to do socialism when you have a mono-ethnic, high-trust society, which is what most of those countries were for a long period of time.
Well, they're learning, aren't they? They're learning now.
Well, now they started accepting in immigrants because that's the socialist way. Bring them in and we'll pay for their lives. And now they're starting to see the drawbacks of it and things will start turning back the other way.
Yeah, so I understand this is a pretty heavy topic, but I'm glad that we sort of got it out, because I think it's one of those uncomfortable conversations that no one really wants to have.
But it has to be had.
And it has to be had. And do yourself a favor, start reading those old text. Like they'll rock your socks off. We all know that they're there. Like the King James Bible's the most read text of all time.
Right.
So when someone says to me, "Why would you read that?" I'm like, we're in the minority for having not read it.
Yeah, true.
Right? So you probably should read it.
But it's also just a general understanding of how different ideologies think and function.
Yeah.
Like, this is...
I'll do the Quran.
Yeah, but this is the arrogance of the Western world. We look at the rest of the world and we think that everyone else thinks like us. And that's what trips up all these lefties when it comes to importing people from shithole countries, right? As Barnaby Joyce put them.
And Donald Trump.
The reason why those countries are shitholes in the first place is because they think in a certain way. So it is ludicrous to think that you should... Nice. But it is a ludicrous thought process to think that we should rescue them from their shit existence, bring them here, and then bow down to their way of doing things. If we are living in a...
Those countries are shithole countries. Shithole countries.
But if we're living in a place that we think that it is our obligation to offer these people a better life, why are we then bringing them here and then letting them dictate to us how the country should be run?
Yeah, do their shit.
That's right.
No. Do our shit.
Do our shit, because obviously our shit worked, otherwise you wouldn't be here in the first place.
Totally.
And on that note,
I think we can leave it there.
Thanks very much for joining us, guys. We will see you all next week.
When we're banned from the internet.
Yo.